Do you know how wild it is to talk about the civilizational impacts of mass immigration with your 14-year-old? Don't get me wrong, I'm very proud. How the hell did we get here? Hey, if you're new here, my name's Jake. I've been an infantryman, a black water contractor, a cop, a SWAT team operator, but my most important job ever is being a father and now a grandfather. And it is because of our children and what their future may be in this country is why this channel exists. Let's get into this. Now, the quick and simple answer you would think is the internet and social media. But what makes a 14-year-old boy want to watch Benny Johnson and Asmongold discuss political topics? I recall correctly, I didn't know a lick about politics until my early 20s. But the reason why, and the start of this, is one of the left's most favorite tactics, and that is indoctrination. And that was way before the internet came about. I live in my home state of Florida, but about 11 years ago, when my daughter was 12, she had just started middle school. We were living in the formerly red stronghold of Colorado, as one of my brothers from the force calls it, the blue prison now. And she had to write a paper. The teacher had sent home a sheet with a list of approved topics that she had to choose from. And included in these topics was gay marriage, legalization of marijuana, and abortion, among others. Now, some of these topics, my wife and I, whose right and responsibility it is to judge when our child was mature enough to maybe be taught about some of these subjects, were suddenly forced into it. Our daughter had to know about adult topics at 12 years old, lose a portion of her innocence in what she thought the world was and how it operated, because they forced it upon her. And make no mistake, you can't ignore this. You can't brush it under the rug and just put your blinders on and forget this happens. You have to counter the point of view they're getting from the left with your own point of view, according to your own morals and values and beliefs. Because if you don't, what you're relying on is who they hang out with. There's the adage that if you hang around four of whatever, we'll say if you hang around four lefties, you will be the fifth lefty, period. Even if you're not. If you're conservative now, but you hang around four lefties, you will become a lefty in time. If not, you will leave the group because they don't believe in your morals and values. You're not part of the same tribe. You're not vibing, right? We are tribal animals. We will get with our tribe. So you will either conform or you will leave. Your kids will do the same. So it's not only what you tell them, but monitoring who they're hanging out with. And of course, that's difficult because you're not talking politics with your kids' friends, but you got to be cognizant of that. Back to indoctrination. Lenin has a great quote that the left loves. Give me 4 years to teach a child and I will sow a seed that shall never be uprooted. They live by that. The left believes in the state. So as a teacher, an extension, an arm of the state, they think they have as much right and authority to teach your kid however they want, maybe even more so, depending on how deep they are into the left. That is their thought process, which is so alien to our thought process, if you're on the right, that you believe the parents have the right to teach their child their morals and values and what they believe in. When my Benny Johnson watching son first went into middle school, he had to experience a young kid who thought he was a cat. Yeah, a cat, which is, fine, except that you're not. And the staff acquiesced and catered to this behavior. What does that teach a child when they when they see the staff cater to a mental illness like it's normal? So he became politicized because his friends thought this was ridiculous. Him and his friends thought this was ridiculous. And that's what they talked about. The things that they had to deal with in school that were catered to and how ridiculous it was. It actually wasn't any of our doing whatsoever, except just maybe as a younger child, he heard the conversations that we had to have with his older brother and older sister. So our kids are having to grow up faster because of indoctrination in certain schools or dependent on certain teachers. And then this stuff, they're having to grow up faster because these things are presented to them with the kids they're seeing in school and what other kids are talking about in school because of what they're hearing at home. Maybe people on the right, raise kids conservative, and then those kids go and proselytize in school. But I never saw it. Right people aren't out there protesting every single little thing. They're not throwing it in your face. They're not doing what the left does. It's just not what we do. But the left does. Because if you don't believe what they believe, you're an enemy, for a lot of them at least. So the only way you stop this is by talking with your kids on a regular basis. And unfortunately, you have to steal a portion of their childhood away, a portion of their innocence about what you think, what they think this world is and how they think this world works. You're gonna have to tell them otherwise to protect them, to, instead of indoctrinate, inoculate. Yeah, I just came up with that. Inoculate them against the nonsense that they're no doubt going to hear in school or online or from teachers or from a myriad of other places that they may get their information. Inoculate them against that information, giving them another point of view. It may not stick, but at least they have that other point of view to compare with. They have no comparison because you're not talking to them and they're getting nothing from the moderate conservative point of view, only from the liberal leftist point of view. That's a losing battle. That incident with my daughter was just the start. I mean, she was experiencing this stuff in school where she started to have these, how would we say, sympathies towards everything on the left that they were talking about. I remember having a conversation with her once, and I was just trying to plant the seed of the moderate conservative point of view to her. And I said, sweetheart, look, as a man, as a male, I'm not supposed to want to cut off parts of my body so that I could be something that I'm not. Like, that's not okay. Like, something's going on up here. Something's wrong. I didn't beat it down or, beat it into her head. I didn't sit there. I just I planted that seed to say that, look, don't just accept something outright because someone says, I feel this way. A lot of people have feelings. That doesn't make them facts. It doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it okay. I said, something's not right. If that's what you're doing, something's not right. And I'm very happy to report my daughter is amazing. She's a recent mom. She's got a great husband. They own their own home, doing great. Couldn't be prouder. But it was turbulent teenage years, like it is for lots of teenagers. But you just got to stick it out. You got to keep reinforcing the values. Unfortunately, they have to grow up quicker than probably our generation. But it's funny because of electronics, because of the internet and social media, they're not growing up in certain ways because they're not getting outside. They're not having those adventures. I mean, when I was a kid, I would bike ride miles from my house. And it's weird because I would never let my kids bike ride miles from the house at 9 years old. Just different times, and different times call for different strategies. But the left has always had the same strategy: indoctrinate from a young age, because the minds are so malleable at a young age. So be on guard, be proactive. Don't leave your kids' values to chance what they're learning on the other side. And I wouldn't, as a strategy, don't beat it into their head. Hand it to them. Tell them, this is why. Explain yourself. Let them ask questions. Try to create that relationship where you have the open door where they can talk to you about that stuff. Where you don't get irritated or upset because they bring up a lefty idea they heard in school, and your first thing is suspicion that they've already accepted that idea. No, don't do that. Just give the counterpoint. All right? Give the counterpoint. All right, I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.